Welcome to the Marvel Rivals Hardcore Ranked Challenge. The rules are pretty simple. I have to climb all the way to Grandmaster. But there's a catch. If I lose a match with a hero, they are gone forever. Can I reach the top without running out of heroes? Stick around to find out. Hey, if you'd like to help me grow, make sure to leave a sub. Enjoy the video. One thing I have to say ahead of time. This is probably the most intense episode we've had yet. To kick off our first match in gold, I decided going with none other than Black Panther. I know he's considered to be a very high tier hero, and I agree. The thing is, it's very unrealistic for me to pick up his complex mechanics and gameplay this late into the challenge. So I'm better off picking him in one of the still considered lower ranks than wasting him in one of the very high ranks. And that's exactly what it proved to be. The difficult mechanical skill you need to play him was a bit overwhelming for me, and we ended up overpowered by the enemies in our very first match. Black Panther mains, I'm sorry to bring shame upon you. I know I did him dirty. Which brings me to my next pick, Hawkeye. Far from his former glory in Season 0, maybe he can still make something happen for us. And although I was able to get 1 or 2 picks from range, anyone who's watched my first video on this challenge knows how me and sniper heroes get along with each other. And I think this 1v1 sums it up pretty perfectly. This was my second loss in a row, and actually ended up demoting me back into silver, so here we are. I knew to not spiral even further and waste more heroes than I already had to bring out a strong pick. And that's exactly what I did, going with Doctor Strange, our best and only wall-based tank left in the challenge. And this is how it went. They started off pushing and advancing really quickly. This Magneto kinda got on my nerves, being so cocky, trying to push me back so quickly and aggressively. But in a witty maneuver, I just decided disregarding him entirely and not let him push me back even further, managing to maintain and establish my front line and pushing him back, but a bit of carelessness had set a quick end to me. However, I did manage to get back before they reached the first checkpoint, which meant we had another chance of proving ourselves as the better team in this matchup. Or not. Cause Thor was able to effectively disrupt our backline, cutting off my healing, leading to my death once more. And just like that, they were 1/3 through the map. And they showed no signs of slowing down. Until both of our support ults shut down their barrage at once. Suddenly, we were in control. Now, we had to hold it. In no time, they were back on the advance. And it was our turn to prove a point by winning this very next fight, if we wanted to show that we could really stand our own, which would prove to be very challenging, cause it meant having to withstand 3 of their ults that they had at ready. But I managed to counter the first one, using my shield to block Magneto's ult effectively. But there was still a cloak and dagger ult burning below my feet, which normally would be countered by our C&D ult, but we had burned that one on our previous engage. So all we could do was step out of its way to avoid its constant stream of damage. To top it off, Rocket popped his ult, giving our enemies 40% damage increase across the board. Would we manage to hold our own against it? The answer was maybe, if I could land an ult of my own. And that's exactly what happened. Although Magneto did well trying to shield his team from my attacks, this left them vulnerable to attacks from my team. With their healer gone, the enemy team was soon to fall apart. And so our control over the convoy remained. And it would, for about another minute, until a lot of the events from our prior fight repeated themselves. This time our cloak and dagger was able to counter their ult though. But on the other hand, Magneto was successful in countering mine as well. A sudden massive output of damage forced me to back off, giving up control over the convoy. And soon they would reach the second checkpoint, and they showed no signs of slowing down, capitalizing well on their momentum, making it all the way around 85% through the checkpoint. And with a minute left on the clock, it was only a matter of time until they would break our defense once again and advance through the finish line. One last teamfight later, and yeah, it was wraps. Or was it? We stopped them at 0.4 meters to the finish line, and our whole team knew what we had been given: an opportunity, a second wind, another chance. But this was sure to be our last. We had to make everything out of it.
By the eye of Agamotto!
And we did. But don't make hasty assumptions. If we wanted to win this set, we still had to advance our convoy further than them in this very next round. Could we close it out and take this deserved victory? Or were we the worst team and this last clutch was only due to luck, meaning we would lose Doctor Strange, our best tank left in the game? Make sure to subscribe if you're having fun, by the way. After our first team fight, in which we fought tooth and nail for dominance, we made it to the first checkpoint without another clash, but they were awaiting us right behind the gates, giving us an ugly introduction to our road to the second checkpoint. But we were able to bounce back and get back on track towards the second third of the way. Although they didn't give it up for free, we managed to get there without major complications. And just like them in last round, now it was us blazing our way through this third checkpoint. The finish line wasn't reached, and we could almost smell the victory coming our way, but it was here, where the enemies had a key switch in their strategy. You see, the most effective way to slow down in advance is to break their front line, making it pretty much impossible for them to gain any more space. And there's one character who excels at doing exactly that: Wolverine, who was giving me massive trouble going into this last step of the fight. And I realized, now we were exactly in the position they were in last round. 1 minute on the clock and only a few meters from the finish line. Time was our most valuable asset, and so I decided to open up a portal to initiate a push, paired with my ult. This was a massive blunder and had wasted so much time that we were in overtime now, meaning we had to play it flawlessly to not lose the best tank in the game. Feeling like I had let my team down that previous push, I had to lock in. And I did, managing to save Doctor Strange, for now. Real quick, if you'd like to help me monetize my videos a little, you can check out my shop or Patreon in the description. Regardless if you do or not, thank you so much for watching till here. Now let's get on with the video. After coming so close to losing him in this match, I decided to bench Doctor Strange for now and move on to Mr. Okay, I see how it is. Of course, I mean Iron Fist. This match wasn't easy whatsoever. I was barely used to Iron Fist's playstyle, since it's very specific and kinda similar to Black Panther's, and we saw how that ended, which made me believe this was gonna be just like that. Which is not good at all. We've been bleeding DPS heroes, and although there's a lot of DPS heroes in the game, losing Iron Fist would start to make this roster look thinner and thinner, without seeing any real results in return in terms of climbing ranks. And yeah, as you can see, I was engaging all wrong, carelessly dying, picking fights without a real plan, and not finding any openings whatsoever. But we gained control of the point right as the enemy reached 99%, buying me valuable time to get a bit more used to his mechanics, starting to play more reserved and calculated, and picking up the pace in terms of kills. Although we ended up losing the first set point, it became much more of an evenly matched fight towards the end. And so I felt a sense of renewed fighting spirit going into the second set point. I knew exactly what I did right and what I did wrong in last match, and I would double down on my very strengths, engaging with thought, picking the right targets, and preserving my own life above all. Quickly we had gained control of the point, and I started looking for flanks and angles, but I got frozen and left on low HP. For a second I was gonna keep pressing, but I remembered to prioritize survival and retreated to heal and start finding angles again. I ran in, fists glowing, feeling unstoppable. Then a squid slapped me across the face and suddenly I was questioning my life choices. But I was given a second chance by Rocket's BRB, and from then on I maintained my style of dipping in and out for quick bursts of damage, even if not to necessarily secure the kill, but also to just put pressure on the enemies and maybe bait some cooldowns. And without any major complications, we managed to secure the second set point. In our third round, I immediately ran to position myself on a flank, assassinating a healer and helping my team take out a tank to take control over the zone. And very early into the match, it was clear to our whole team that our approach in this round was to abide by the philosophy that the best defense is a proper offense. And so we steady pushed back the enemy closer and closer to their spawn, giving them near to no breathing room and smothering their hopes at winning with our steady, deadly pressure. But although things seemed like looking up, this match appeared to only be a fleeting glimpse of luck, and we lost Iron Fist in our very next match. I was desperate for things to change. So far, every step felt like 2 steps back, stagnating at best, losing ground at worst. What we needed wasn't just another good match. We needed a turning point, a force of nature that could finally shift the momentum in our favor, pushing us out of Goal 3 into a position that actually felt like progress. And then, in the middle of all that struggle, I saw it, a glimmer of hope in the form of 2 fighters built for war. Wolverine and the Punisher. Picking these 2 proved to have insane chemistry, swapping between them depending on the enemy team. When we were up against tank-heavy comps, Wolverine took the lead. An unrelenting force that tore through defenses and refused to go down. When the enemies stacked damage dealers, the Punisher stepped in, ruthless, calculated, and efficient in cutting them down before they could even react. For the first time in a while, it felt like we weren't just holding on, we were fighting back. For a while, it felt like we were unstoppable. Wolverine and the Punisher had carried us through the fire, turning losses into wins, dragging us all the way into Gold 1, one brutal fight at a time. But deep down, I knew it couldn't last forever. And in a bitter fight in overtime, the Punisher, our ruthless executioner, the one who never hesitated, never faltered, was finally outgunned by none other than the Star-Lord himself. Still, the mix of Wolverine and the Punisher had left us edging very close to promoting into Platinum. And like it's almost tradition at this point to carry us over this very last hurdle, I picked none other than my best hero, Magic. And there's one thing I can say ahead of time. This was one of the most intense matches I've had in a while, if not ever. Starting off the match to push our convoy, I utilized Magic's kit to the fullest, staying elusive with her portals while dishing out massive damage with her cleaving sword hits, and attacking from all sorts of angles to keep the enemy on their toes. With my unpredictable nature, we were practically blazing through this first checkpoint in a stunning manner, and we were not planning on slowing down. Continuously ripping through enemies, baiting cooldowns and ults from healers, and managing to preserve my own life was key. But right here, few meters from the finish line, we started noticing a switch in the enemy's demeanor, presenting themselves to be formidable opponents, and they would use this very next set point to prove why they deserve to be in Gold 1 just as much as we did. But that didn't mean that our team started playing any less stellar, only that we were now evenly matched. Because without really winning any decisive teamfight, they kept the pressure steady coming, forcing us to step back out of their wave of overwhelming power, giving up space for them to push their convoy, and actually managing to reach the first checkpoint about 20 seconds quicker than we did in our first round. So our team realized we had to make a mark to remind them who had just ripped through their pathetic attempts at a defense. Because part of this battle was a mental one, and since our teams were so evenly matched, it would be decided by whoever won on that playing field. So we dished out a squad wide to regain both confidence and momentum. But while we managed to gain back a bit of mental superiority, we were not about to cripple their fighting spirit, and so began a lengthy fight for dominance, involving a ruthless back and forth of ults. But a lengthy fight was actually what played right into our advantage. They were the ones on the attack. We only needed to hold our own until the timer ran out. So we kept clashing in a brutal fashion, but when I found myself a little isolated and quickly taken out, our team fell, and the enemies managed to claim the second checkpoint to themselves. To regain our footing in the fight, I decided to pop ult and wreak havoc on the enemy team. And this ended up triggering a chain reaction, in which one ult followed another, turning the battlefield into chaos. But when the dust settled, we had edged out the enemy by just a little bit to gain the upper hand. Sadly, I ended up isolating myself from the team once more, leading to another lost team fight and eternal momentum. And before I knew it, the enemy was already on track to graze the finish line. So with 1 minute on the clock, we threw ourselves and everything we had into the convoy to stop it last second. Now everything was about surviving while contesting the convoy and steady putting on the pressure. And one thing was for certain, we couldn't afford to lose a single team fight. There was one objective, and that was called lock in. If they reached the goal, we advanced into the tiebreak, which could realistically go either way, exposing Magic to a huge risk of being lost. So this match had to be decided right then and there on this spot. One Doctor Strange portal to initiate what would be, without a question, the enemy's last push of the game, in which they would push forward with everything they had. Here came the first key moment. Are you ready? I popped ult, but Moon Knight did too, leading to me dying before I could even get any value out of it. But the positive was that I was the only one effectively taken out by the Moon Knight ult. If it had landed any better, surely this would have gone to them in an instant. But it kept going. Another chance for us to stay in it. And so began our next clash. Both teams at close to full strength came in bashing heads. Soon, Doctor Strange's ult would take out the majority of our team, leaving only Luna and Venom behind. But then I respawned, for a moment rushing in all on my own to keep our contest. But I took it more careful this time. If I die again, leaving my team behind, I'm to blame. Finally, it was over, with Hela popping her ult, which means she was no longer contesting the convoy for the overtime to run out. So our Magic, once again, lives to see another day. Let's go! Okay, but that was a crazy match, to be honest. That was a crazy match. That was like... oof. But we're platinum, that's crazy. Can we manage to get all the way to Grandmaster without losing all our heroes first?